Sheffield is at the geographical heart of the country, with an unbeatable network of road and rail links. And the Lower Don Valley is its dynamic centre for development. Hello and welcome to the headquarters of the Development Corporation for this, the second edition of SDC Today, bringing you the latest information on what's happening in Sheffield's Lower Don Valley as the SDC continues its programme of regeneration in the city's industrial heartland. Later in the programme, we'll be updating you on the substantial developments at the historic Victoria Quays site. We've reports of significant building projects and overseas investment at key development sites, and it's old for new as vintage motors run the length of the first section of the new Don Valley Link Road. A major factory refurbishment programme supported by the SDC is nearing completion at the 130-year-old West Gun Works. And wire connector manufacturers Gripple will be occupying their new factory in a couple of months' time. It's just one of several buildings being revamped on the Southside site. The scaffolding is down on the historic Atlas and President buildings, which are nearing the end of refurbishment before tenants move in. This distinctive group of developments symbolises the valley's roots and illustrate how buildings of character can provide a continuity between the past and the future. In the last edition of SDC Today, we reported on the start of construction of a 70,000 square foot factory for 3-star engineering on the President Park site. Now, only a few weeks later, the building is virtually complete. We caught up with Dave Richards, 3-star's managing director at one of the city's world-famous sporting institutions, Sheffield Wednesday, where he's club chairman.
We think that Sheffield's new infrastructure in the Lower Don Valley is very attractive to us. The motorway, the ease in our personnel getting there from Barnsley and the outskirts of Sheffield is very good. And I believe that manufacturing needs to go back to the Lower Don. And I think that 3-star can really put the Lower Don back into a manufacturing business of a reasonable size. The SDC came along to 3-star and offered us the land and the buildings. They put us in touch with a builder, and it was very attractive to 3-star.
3-star's relocation will result in 160 jobs coming to the President Park site, which the SDC owns and is releasing in phases to the developer. Another of the SDC's sites, Newhall, has now seen the first stage of reclamation completed. The work was part financed by a grant of nearly £1 million from the European Regional Development Fund. There's already serious interest in 6 acres of the site from several firms in the metals and engineering sectors, including an American company. The SDC and 9 partners are working to get Sheffield recognised as a metals and materials technopole, the first of its kind in Britain. The scheme will be officially launched this autumn. Newhall has been brought on stream earlier than originally planned to cope with the increasing demand for industrial land in the valley. When complete, it will be carefully landscaped to complement its riverside location. The Allen Upholstery Company have undertaken major renovation work supported by substantial grants from the SDC at their premises in Savile Street East. In just over a year since they bought the premises, they have already undertaken over £180,000 worth of renovation work.
The valley needs something, besides new buildings, needs something really to set it off. And I think this building and the buildings across the way now really is going to create the valley, and the new buildings is going to set behind. So therefore what is really happening is the fact that we are now creating something new out of the old, which I think will really create something in this valley where people passing through out of Sheffield to Meadowhall and the motorway will notice Sheffield, not only this valley.
Allen Upholstery are creating 6 new jobs before the end of 1994, bringing the total workforce to 18.
With the help from the corporation and the Development Corporation, which we've had every help and every development, is out of this world. And we are creating work, perhaps not in a big way like the big boys, but at least we have created another 7 or 8 jobs. And if everybody in Sheffield can create another 7 or 8 jobs, then pretty obviously it's done things to help the unemployment of this city.
In June this year, Lord Riverdale rode in a 1909 Sheffield Simplex at the head of a vintage car cavalcade to mark the opening of the Don Valley Link Road. It was one of the very few cars ever to have been made in Sheffield, but from later this year the Ginetta sports car will be made in the valley once the company relocates here. Work on the next phase of the £33 million Link Road, the Brightside Lane section, is due for completion at the end of the year. It demonstrates the SDC's continuing commitment to invest in the area's transport infrastructure. In June, the SDC officially opened the Sanderson's Mill Race Ecology Park, a site by the River Don that had been unused for 20 years. Guests attending the opening were invited to visit the site buildings refurbished by the SDC as lecture rooms for visiting school parties. More companies are moving to the 28-acre Atlas North site on Carlisle Street. Communications company Torch Telecom, abrasive manufacturers Abercon and Slater Printing are the latest arrivals.
We're moving out of about 10,000 square feet and we're moving into a purpose-built 15,000 square feet building. All the printing area will be on one level with the offices at the top end, and obviously the ease of operation comes into account there. It'll be a lot easier for us to actually do the job. We had long and protracted negotiations with the SDC. We actually started in October of '92, and right the way through there's one or two guys there who've been particularly helpful, and at the end of it all we ended up with what we wanted at the right price, and we got a little bit of a grant as well, so we can't complain.
Phase 3 reclamation work at Atlas North is already underway, with one site now under offer. In the last edition of SDC Today, we reported that planning permission had been granted for office developments by Business Homes and Hallamshire Investments on the Carbrook Triangle.
Well, Hallamshire became interested in acquiring further land in the Don Valley after its two previous successful developments down here, and we were very keen to get control of this site, and we're now constructing two 6,000 square foot office units.
Work has progressed rapidly on these buildings, illustrating the continued confidence and interest in the Carbrook area.
We've been very pleased that we've managed to let or sell all the units in our first phase. Half of our second phase at Meadow Court has already been sold, and we've got strong interest in the remaining unit.
And over at the Meadow Court development near Meadow Hall, there's rapid building progress on phase 2 of the scheme. The first phase of building is now complete and has been followed by phase 2. One unit has already been taken by a Yorkshire-based financial services group, bringing 18 new jobs to the area. This is Sheffield's most significant heritage development, the 20-acre Victoria Quays site at Wharf Street. The SDC is managing this exciting scheme, which will eventually create a spectacular waterfront site for office, retail and leisure facilities.
The canal heyday was based on freight movement to the warehouses and to the site, but with the advent of railways, the usage declined until in 1970 it finished altogether. Our ambition, therefore, has to try and restore the buildings to the former glory, using them for modern type uses, but retaining the essential listed qualities.
The SDC believed that it was vital to establish confidence in the Victoria Quays scheme. To demonstrate their own commitment, they began high-profile work to attract the attention of potential developers and occupiers.
Duncan Renaissance were one of the lead developers in the early stages, approached by the SDC to catalyse the development of this area on the back of similar developments that we'd done in the past. We'd long recognised the potential of these superb historic buildings in a natural waterside setting, but very close, of course, to the city centre and the motorway infrastructure.
These warehouses, totalling 30,000 square feet, are due for completion in February of 1995. The Straddle warehouse offers another 25,000 feet of office space and will open a month later.
We've got a series of photos around the base of the Straddle. So.
Every Monday we hold a meeting with the representatives of various contractors to try and foresee and avoid the problems of major contractors working right next to each other. So it's important that people all fit within a programme. They know how they interface with the next contractor and they work to that system rigidly.
The first of 3 office buildings on the South Quays site is being developed by Wilson Bowden. This prestigious accommodation, including a car park, will open at the beginning of next year. Refurbishment of Merchants Crescent, which will provide small office and retail units, is nearly complete. The 350 space-decked car park, designed and financed by the Development Corporation, will be ready for use as early as October this year.
What we're creating here is a setting which will surprise a lot of people when they come into it. When they see, for example, the water inlet that goes into the ground floor of the terminal warehouse. When they see the way that the grain warehouse roof is festooned with the bases of hoppers that will be at the ceiling of a restaurant.
So it is not just any other office park, it has within it a living, breathing waterway which we intend to see used to the full.
Of course, you never know what you'll unearth when clearing a site. This historic dry dock was revealed during early preparations, and it dates back to the earliest days of the Sheffield and Tinsley Canal. When work at Victoria Quays is complete, the canal will again run into the terminal building. We hope this short insight into some of the SDC's many projects has stimulated your interest to discover more what's going on in Sheffield's Lower Don Valley. Well, that's just about it for this particular bulletin, but we'll be back with another one very soon. If you require any more information about anything you've seen featured today, then please write to the SDC at this address. But from me, goodbye.